African. I owe my beings to the hills and the valleys, the mountains and the glades, the rivers, the deserts and the trees, the flowers, the seas, and the ever-changing seasons that define our faces of our native land. My body has frozen in the frost and in our latter-day snows, and is stowed in the warmth of our sunshine and melted in the heat of our midday sun. The crack and the rumble and the summer thunders slashed by startling lightning have been a cause of most trembling and hope. The dramatic shapes of the landscape have been panels of the set and the natural stage on which we act our foolish deeds and the theater of our day. At times, and in fear, I have wondered whether I should concede equal citizenship to the leopard and the lion, the elephant, the springbok, the hyena, the black mamba, the pedestal and human presence among all these, a feature on the face of our native land. And thus defined, I know that none just challenge me when I say, I'm an African. Africa, home of Mandela. Africa, home of millions of populations. Africa, Abantwana, children of the soil. Africa, home of billions of rainbow nations. African life, African voice, African people, African style. I said African life, African voice, African people, African style. African life, African voice, African people, African style. Because of that, I'm also able to state the fundamental truth that I am born of a people who are heroes and heroines. I'm born of a people who would not tolerate oppression, or nation that would not allow the fear of death, torture, imprisonment, exile, persecution should result in the perpetration of injustice. Who, our mother and father, will not permit that the behavior of a few results description of a country as people barbaric. Patient because history is on their side, and these masses do not despair because today the weather is bad, or not do they turn Trump Palace when tomorrow the sun shines. Whatever the circumstances they have lived through, and because of that experience I'm determined to find for themselves who they are and who they should be. Hey, who we are and who we should be. We are assembled here today to mark the victory and acquiring, exercising their right to formulate their own definition of what it means to be African. Africa, home of Mandela. Africa, home of millions of populations. Africa, Abantwana, children of the soil. Africa, home of billions of rainbow nations. Africa, home of Mandela. Africa, home of millions of populations. Africa, Abantwana, children of the soil. Africa, home of billions of rainbow nations. African life, African voice, African people, African style. I said African life, African voice, African people, African style. African life, African voice, African people, African style. African life, African voice, African people, African style. I said African life, African voice, African people, African style. African life, African voice, African people, African style.